Simon at Cell Group last night asked if I could do a message sometime on Matthew 27:50 to 53. My answer to that is that, that's not on my radar at the moment for preaching, but I could easily make a short video, just talking about this briefly. So this takes place after the death of Jesus, and some really odd events take place. One is that there's darkness across the land for 3 hours, and from noon until 3, and that's just before Jesus dies. And some people have lined that up as a solar eclipse, but that would be unusual because eclipses only last a matter of minutes, not of hours. So this is a supernatural darkness across the land. It's like God is withdrawing his grace over the land of Israel, and that certainly matches with the particular verses in 50 to 53. So Jesus dies, and it says this: then Jesus shouted out again, and he released his spirit. At that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and tombs opened. The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city of Jerusalem and appeared to many people. So you got some really unusual events happening there with the death of Jesus, and Matthew just highlights a few of them. One is that the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The curtain was there to delineate, to mark off the area known as the Holy of Holies, which the high priest was only allowed to enter once a year. It was where the presence of God was. And so on the Day of Atonement each year, the high priest would go in and offer a sacrifice for the sins of Israel. And now this curtain has been torn from top to bottom, it says. We need to realize that this was an extremely thick curtain. It's not something that would happen just, by ordinary events. It's not something that somebody could climb up to the top and tear. No, this was a supernatural act of God. And it references the fact that now Jesus has died on the cross. There is no barrier between human beings and God. We can all enter into the presence of God at any time, not just on the Day of Atonement, not just the high priest, but all of us can enter into the presence of God because of the death of Jesus. He also mentions that there was an earthquake, rocks split apart and tombs opened. It's a scary sort of thing, but earthquakes often occurred, coincided with times or episodes of God's judgment, God's activity in the world. And I think the fact that the whole earth is shaking at this time is saying that something has happened that has changed the whole covenant, the whole basis of people's relationships with God. And then tombs opened, and the bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection and went into Jerusalem to share the good news. They appeared to many people. So again, this is not a zombie sort of state where these people crawl out of the tombs in various states of decomposition and semi-life. It's actually real life, and they are there to represent the fact that because of Jesus's death and resurrection, every human being who loves the Lord will be raised from the dead and will go and live with God forever. So they went into the city of Jerusalem and appeared to many people. This is a testimony to the resurrection of Jesus. Later on, Jesus himself would appear to many people also, including up to 500 people on one occasion. So resurrections were all the go at that period, and I think we need to recognise that people weren't stupid at this time. They didn't sort of expect that people could rise from the dead with no good reason. It wasn't a superstitious sort of thing. This was seen as a real act of God. So that's what it's all about. It's the end of one covenant era, the beginning of the new covenant, the covenant of Jesus. And 40 years after this was really cemented by the events of AD 70, when the Romans entered Jerusalem, destroyed the city and destroyed the temple, and that was the end. That was the end of the Jewish worship. It was the end of the whole sacrificial system. It was the end of the Jewish religion as a way of drawing close to God, and so this is sort of like a pre-taste of what's going to happen before that generation passes away. Sorry about my hesitancy in words there. So yeah, it's one of those events that is pretty awesome in itself, but the real key to this is the death and resurrection of Jesus. Those events just point to the world changing, to God changing his way of dealing with people. And we can all get on board with that now. We can all share in the fruits of the resurrection, death and resurrection of Jesus. We can all have our sins forgiven and be raised to eternity with him. And I want to encourage you today, if you've never made that step of giving your heart to the Lord, of deciding that you're going to follow Jesus in all things, then do so today, and make the resurrection a reality in your own life. God bless you. I'll talk to you another day.